Right, definitely. I heard Candace Owens putting forth this argument that like Sexy Red is basically like a psyop operation to be able to kind of, really like degrade the moral fabric of our young people. Do you feel like hip hop has that power?
I think I think hip hop has the power to do whatever hip hop wants. I think hip hop is culture. I grew up with hip hop culture, right? I was wearing the baggy jeans, the Rockaway, and the Sean John shirts. Like if you look at pictures of me in youth, I grew up in as I say, in the hood in Queens. It's like it's not Southside Jamaica for sure, but it's definitely the hood in its own merit, right? So I went to public school, so I very much used hip hop in that era, like where R&B, Ja Rule, that kind of culture. 50 Cent was coming up and doing his thing. So that's my childhood, and it helped me have an outlook in life that was totally different and contrarian than maybe a prep school student would have. Right? Like I was listening, I was jamming to the same songs most people were at the same time. But you would take one good look at me, you'd never imagine. Like if you go into my playlist, you'd be like, what? You listen to Charlie Baltimore and Ja Rule, Down Ass Bitch, probably one of my favorite songs. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of like George Santos, like 1.0 New York City like roots, and I think that came to me because of the hip hop movement. And I think the hip hop movement has the ability to do whatever you guys want. Probably the largest cultural artistic movement on earth.
Right.
It's hip hop. Like we all bond with, whether it's pain, the reality of the shit show that the world is, but through that artistry, I think it's so important and it's so profound.
But there's a lot of people on the right trying to push the idea that, all hip hop or much of hip hop is basically, degenerate behavior being put out on records, and that, people like Sexy Red are kind of destroying the moral fabric of our society. You don't really go for that?
No, I'm not a prude. I'm not clenching to my crucifix and clenching to my Bible. Nothing against religion there, but to give you a metaphor, right? Because I think we need to allow people to live and let live and do what they want. And it's the same people who do that are also the same people cheating on their wives in Washington, D.C. It's the same moral compass of that, right? It's like, oh my God, that's a sin. Jesus doesn't condone that. But then they bend over a lobbyist and her in the corner when nobody's looking, and his wife's at home, raising their kids. Rules for thee, not for me, kind of.
What rappers right now resonate with you
today?
Yeah.
It's like the same ones.
Oh, so you're
like,
old school.
I'm like I haven't expanded. I'm not going to tell you. Like obviously, I've changed as an adult, and I've changed like a lot of my ways. Like I still jam to old songs, like Kanye Monster song. Like it's kind of one of my favorite songs out there too. But that's old.
It's a classic. Yeah.
It's a classic. It's
like
old.
10 years old at this point. Yeah.
You get it. It's old. It's like I don't think there's anything new. I mean, there's nothing really new out there. Like I'm from the era of like Little Kim hip hop, right? Like I appreciate that style hip hop and rapping more than I do kind of like the newer stuff. A lot of the newer lyrics too are just so shallow. They lack depth. They lack relatability because it's all about like, look at how rich I am, and I'm just gonna throw money up in the air and smoke tons of weed. Back then, you had actual lyrics that played to your life, and you're like, oh shit, that happened to me. You can relate. I feel like that's been taken away a little bit.
But we got to get you turned on to all these YouTube channels that break down the different beefs, so then you can listen to the drill music and actually understand about the politics that they're trying to